It's September the 28th, 2021, and you know why you're here. So let's kick this off right and introduce the players. Hey, I am Gerissar, a PvP Padawan.
Hey everyone, I'm Andallyn.
And I'm Bigmoran.
And welcome to the show. It's just us tonight, which is fine. Absolutely fine. But, hey, why don't we at least talk about what we've been up to the last 2 weeks? I think, Big, why don't we start with you, buddy? What have you been up to for the last 2 weeks?
I've been trying my hand at social media management, which is a very weird and it's an art form that is not artistic at all, and it's a serious matter that isn't serious at all. It's a very confusing thing, but I'm dabbling a little bit into that and still, making my videos, doing all that sort of stuff on the side. It's been interesting.
But no offense, but your Bigmoran handle is basically just a big social media experiment, anyways. Are you doing this on that, or where are you doing this on?
I cannot divulge where I'm doing.
No, yeah.
I'm under strict contract not to. I'm not really under strict contract, but no, I'm now doing it under a branded name, which is a bit different because
Okay.
you can't be as vulgar and you can't say whatever you want. You need to really teeter around what is allowed, and it's something I'm learning to manage, but it's fun.
All right. Sounds fun. Looking forward to seeing, or maybe not seeing what you're doing. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, actually, just quick, how'd your loot boxes go?
Yeah.
Did you get any loot from the Great Vault?
Oh, I did not.
Oh,
I got I've had really bad luck the past few weeks. I've gotten pieces with crit on them, and I don't. When you see a piece with crit, and it's unless you're playing a class that actually needs it, you're just like, dang, okay, not again.
yeah.
But with this new conquest change, which maybe we'll talk about later, I think I'll be able to get more boxes because the past few weeks I've gotten at max too. But it's nice to get those 3 chests, but it hasn't happened to me in quite a while. But maybe with this change.
Okay. I thought the Great Vault PvP chests were based on the amount of honor you earn, not the amount of conquest.
Now you're confused. Now I don't even know what I'm talking about. Maybe you're right. I think it's oh, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
You're right. I got confused. But
No worries. Okay.
And we call
Got it.
Gerissar the noob. My gosh.
Yeah. Jeez.
Jeez.
Look at me. I'm an amateur over here. Jeez.
Let's make a video about it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Quick, somebody clip that. My one for the year. Speaking of one for the year, Andallyn, how about you? What have you been up to the last 2 weeks?
Speaking of one for the year, yeah. Let's see. I have been getting back into the swing of things at work. It's been great traveling all over the place.
Yeah.
I've also been doing a lot of my, as we just mentioned here before the show, a lot of different live stream production stuff here on our end. And
Yeah.
we've got a lot of stuff in the works here for the show, and we're excited to hopefully talk about some of that in the future. But yeah, that's kind of been what I've been occupying my time with.
Nice. Yeah, I remember you kind of teasing some of the stuff you're going to be doing. I'm personally very excited to see where that goes for both you personally,
Yeah.
and for us here at the show. So we'll have to save that for another time, though. Once we actually get it all put together, because right now it's all very conceptualized, but nothing actually
A little
to
nebulous.
present yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, I guess for me, I did do my normal casual stuff. One thing that was really fun, it was I believe it was Sunday morning. I was out trying to get in a random. I was doing the brawl. I went and did the Arathi Basin winter brawl there, and one of the listeners from the show, who actually he friended me and is on my B tag, so he quick joined into the queue with me, and we went and ran the BG together, and it was really fun. So he was actually thanking us because he does night shift, and named Sandman actually, and he's doing night shift, and he was starting to nod off, so he was listening to us talk with Shawnee, and he was quite thankful for the episode. It kept him energized and going for the rest of the show. So,
Dude, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Shout
I
out
was
to
really-
everybody
I was-
on night shift, yo. It's way better than second shift. I'm just gonna put that out there. So yeah, shout out to everyone on night shift.
I don't know, man. I've done like some long, like midnight to 7 a.m. shifts, and that 6 a that like 5 to 6 a.m. period is killer. Like that is nasty.
See, but that's like the hour that it's like, okay, here we go. This is the home stretch. Like I'm almost done now.
Oh no, my body kept wanting to fall asleep. It's like it's pitch black, it's dark. You know, you just wanna you should be asleep right now. And it's like you're just fighting. It's hard. It's hard. But anyway, well, and other than that, I guess I myself I didn't get any loot boxes because I didn't get enough honor even to get one. Because yeah, I just did skirms and some rend and some brawls and that, so it wasn't enough rated honor to get a single chest. So be it. But other than that, I doing the standard thing, playing the auction house. Oh, I decided that I was going to get right investive in the auction house, and so I started to try to corner this selenium ore market on my server, only to find out that apparently nobody's buying it anymore. So I invested about 100,000 gold into some ore that I can't sell now. So
You know what they say. You win some, or sometimes you lose 100,000 gold. You know, it's
That's right.
push and pull.
it's true. It's
And
true.
at the end of the day, you realize all you gotta do is just download TSM, and you'll be alright.
That was with TSM actually.
Oh,
What was the purchase average?
Purchase average was around 6 gold per.
No,
and
I mean
was
like how many buys or how many purchases. TSM will tell you like what the daily sell average is, like how many are sold per day.
Oh, I
It's
didn't look
normally
at that.
like
I just
for
I just tried
transmog.
to-
Okay, yeah, that's yeah.
you
Probably
bought the
should've.
equivalent of like Beanie Babies. You know, now you have a stack of
That's right. Someday it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back in a style. So you
just sit on those for a while.
yeah, just sit on it, man. It's like Dogecoin. Just stuck it away. Don't touch it.
Oh man, that hurts. That burns. It's true though. It's kind of how I feel. Oh well. Well, speaking of me rolling the dice on the auction house, why don't we roll the dice and get into the need, greed, and pass segment?
This likely won't be a clean feed. All right. So keep your distance, Sally!
That was probably the best segue I've ever heard you come up with.
Apparently, I'm on a roll tonight.
Yeah, apparently you are.
Apparently.
Let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going. Yeah. So it's my turn to come up with the scenario with the 3 options that everybody's going to then pick their need, their greed, and their pass. So let's see where this goes. And just a reminder, once again, you who are listening to us live, go ahead and play in the chat room. And if you're sitting at home, come on over to the Discord server. Tell us what your thoughts were. Which ones you would pick as need, greed, and pass.
Yeah, we're in
All
there
right,
right
so
now. Come on.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, we changed this up slightly, so we're actually in the Discord server itself, down in the Do Not Disturb channels. I'm not sure if anybody can see them from outside. Oh, those other people that aren't in the lofty roles of show host. So, but yeah. So back to this, the need, greed, and pass. I've seen about the all the 9.1.5 quality of life changes that they've been making. Right. So. They've been talking about a few things. There's the news that was today. That was a hot fix. They've been talking about some honor. I think I heard something about honor points being boosted in 9.1.5. Then there's also the unchained equipment chest, which is bind on account. Did you guys hear about this one?
Yeah, the random piece, right?
Yeah. So this it's supposedly purchasable. It's not on the servers yet. It was just data mined, so they're not sure. We don't know how much it's going to cost or whatever. But apparently, it's going to allow you to buy an equipment chest, and then you can send it across mail to any of your characters, and then it'll open up and be a random piece. So, see what else could Blizzard add to the game to improve our quality of life for purchase? So, number one. Sockets for marks. So you'll be able to buy an item that you can then use to put a gem socket into a piece of equipment, just like you would for the one from Korthia and that. But this one you have to use your marks of honor to purchase. 2, a conduit. So again, similar to the one the one you get from Corthia or whatever, but this one is for purchase, and it will give you a random up to whatever the maximum conduit is. So I think right now, let's say it's 226. So if it won't automatically give you 226, it'll give you kind of that increasing up to possibly 226. And then the third one is honor point or conquest point boxes, and this is for up and down converting conquest points and honor points. So if you're sitting on a bunch of conquest points, but you want some honor points, you can buy a box for conquest points and purchase with conquest points to get honor points, and vice versa. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the three different the three choices that we're posing to the scenario. So what would you like to see added also on top of everything else during 9.15 for quality of life changes for PvP? So again, it was the sockets for marks, random conduits, or honor points and conquest points boxes for up and down converting.
What was the random conduit? It was purchased by what?
I didn't say, actually, so I'll let you guys figure out what you want to make that one worth.
But you said random conduit.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and go first. I'm going to pass on the random conduit. I think that that's unnecessary. I think that the conduits were easy enough to get. Very seldom was there a time when I was playing a class where I was like, oh my gosh, I've grinded this dungeon. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying it was not normally the case. Normally the case was I was able to get the conduit on the first, maybe second shot at going and killing the boss. So I think the conduits were easy enough to get. The only thing that would sway my opinion was if that conduit was maybe a particular item level. Maybe it was like a much higher item level on that conduit. So that would be the only thing that maybe would sway. But I'm gonna greed on the transfer between conquest and honor points. I think what would throw that into a need would be if those were tokens that you could get, like that you would right click and redeem, that you could also send to your other characters. So it was an account bound item. So meaning if you purchased like I've got a ton of honor because I've already used all my honor, I've got a ton of conquest and I've got an alt, but I'm gonna buy up a bunch of honor tokens and then I'm gonna send them over to my alt. That would be great. That would be awesome. That's been something that people have been looking for a long time.
Yes. All right.
And lastly, of course, by necessity, I'm going to need on what was the first option, which
Sockets for marks.
Sockets for marks. That's right. I think that's a good option. Normally what they do is they hide sockets behind something that only the highest level of players are doing, and just absolutely no lifing to ridiculous degrees to kind of keep some frail sense of like, hey, our game is still grindy for those who are really dedicated, and they just hate their lives because they have to do it in order to stay relevant. It would really shape up the game a lot in that regard.
All right. I like it. All right. Big, how about you?
I think it depends on what character I'm on. So if I'm on my main, then I want the Marks of Honor to buy sockets, 100%. But if I'm on my alt, I would need the random conduit available for purchase. I think that would be nice to have on an alt. So, and then I'm guaranteed going to pass on the honor to conquest point boxes, no matter if I'm on alt or a main. So depends. I'm needing Marks of Honor for sockets if I'm on my main, and I'm going to greed conduit available for purchase on my main, but it's going to be reverse for any alt. That's what I think about this.
Okay. Is that because you already have the maximum conduits you need on your main?
Yeah, I already have enough that's kind of an afterthought on my main. I'm just like, no big deal. But on my alt warrior, who I've neglected a lot, like he's missing so many conduits, and it's like, That's frustrating. If you haven't been playing like a character for a while, you're missing a ton of conduits, and
Right.
you get them one by one,
But it's a
very slowly.
random one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they're in the dailies. You can just like farm them on dailies, guys.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Cool.
The
I like it.
conduits are easy
I
to
like
get.
it. Uh, I think I find with the dailies, the conduits that I was getting on dailies were usually the ones that I didn't need.
Yeah,
They're always all the
Yep.
off spec ones and everything.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
So
Yep.
all right. Well, I guess so. For me, my need was going to be the honor and conquest boxes, just to allow for again for that transfer around. So if you happen to have like extra 100 conquest points, but you're short on 1,000 honor points, you could do that, or vice versa. Right. So I figured that would also be really good for the people who love doing random BGs, but just aren't getting enough conquest points there to like the honor grind is horrendous. So might as well let them use their honor to buy more than just further ranks of honor gear. So I'm going to need on that, and then I was going to greed on the on the sockets for marks. I thought that one would be really awesome, and then just pass on the random conduit for purchase. That's actually kind of tough because I like the idea of getting conduits for purchases, even if randoms. But I feel personally I'd rather be able to use my marks of honor for something, and the daily grind of trying to get my ranks up in Korthia so I could actually get sockets there is it made my soul hurt a little bit. I actually stopped doing it. So
Yeah.
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 Exactly. And that's just it, like what I was talking about. And honestly, it's at a point where if I could use my marks of honor for anything other than transmog gear in Area 51 in the middle of Tanaris, like, I'll take it.
right, yeah, indeed.
Like,
Let's do something with them other than really old gear, please.
Yeah.
Please. All right. Well, that is that. Again, players at home, if you want to let us know your thoughts on the Need, Greed, and Past, head on over to the Warcraft Radio Discord. You'll find the Technically PvP podcast channel there, and go ahead and drop your thoughts into the Discord, and we'll discuss. Let us know your thoughts. On that note, we will talk about the upcoming WoW PvP events.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
all right, let's roll into our events.
Indeed. Fairly quiet week upcoming here, it looks like. So, again, keep an eye out for Dalaran Gaming doing his 5v5 1v1 duels. I am trying to keep an eye out on Flark. He did a tournament, looked really successful. Hadn't seen anything. Then randomly last night, he hosted a quick little battleground RBG war game, 10v10. But it seemed more just kind of like just whimsically doing so. He spectated a couple games on his own, and then that was that. So keeping an eye out, but I don't know of anything actually coming down the pipe from him. So not going to give any dates or anything. The Oasis community, they are continuing doing their 2v2 tournaments. I believe the next one is going to be DPS only, and with a date to be announced soon. TM. But they're expecting it'll be probably mid or late October. Probably a bit of a Halloween theme if I was a betting person, which I probably shouldn't since I can't bet on ore, but that's a different story. And last but not least, on the Blizzard tournament side, we have the sorry, got distracted there by something on Twitch. Anyways, the MDI is doing the Last Stand. I can't remember the date on it specifically off the top of my head, but that's coming just around the corner. And this is going to be where teams are going to fight for that last spot at the global finals. And so any team that hasn't already qualified for the global finals is able to participate in this Last Stand. So should be a pretty good go. I think that's. I wish I wrote down the dates on that. It's supposed to be coming up very soon, though. So that's about all I know for events, unless anybody else knows of something. Again, please let us know. Twitter at technically PvP over on Twitter, or again, come on over to the Discord. We're always there.
Yeah.
But I think that's about it. So why don't we get into the actual subject finales here? I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this one. We there's actually been quite the chatter that we've been having back and forth, getting prepared for this one. So let's get into it.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
Old Millhouse on cue.
Oh yes. All right. So this one episode title is going to be it's working title. I'm calling it Mind Games, but not because of the spell, but because of the games that we play on each other's minds. Right. So I think this was best. So I'd been watching The Crown with my wife, and there's a great episode with Margaret Thatcher where the Queen is basically trying to talk her down a bit, and Margaret Thatcher says how she's used to having enemies, and then she quoted a poem from Charles Mackay. Very powerful moment, I felt, but basically talking about how if you're going to do anything of worth, chances are you're probably going to make enemies along the way. Mm-hmm. And that was that interesting little spot where it made me think of PvP and think about how we were talking about the last episode, how and you see it all over Twitter, where sometimes when people are done an arena match or whatever, whispers start going back and forth, usually calling people trash and some interesting word choices there. But sorry, Big, you had another different thought on that. And what was that?
Well, since we just recently talked about betting, I see. I think trash talk is pretty. I think there's this envy that happens, and we'll get to betting later. But I think there's this envy that happens when anyone has success, and especially in WoW, especially for newer players who are kind of breaking into the scene. You inevitably, sometimes even by accident, make some enemies. If it's not just from a single like 2v2 game where you have a really long match and it gets really intense and you barely win, and you have the right sort of enemy who's not happy that you won, you might make an enemy that way. But also just grinding the ladder, you're inevitably there's a lot of gatekeeping at the higher ranks, and you're gonna get some people who are not gonna be nice to you just because you're sort of the new kid on the block. So I think it's an inevitable part of leveling up in game, especially at the highest levels of PvP for sure.
But this is the interesting part, is that there's the other side to that, which you were talking about, especially was the psychological side, where trash talk is being used to get inside somebody's head, so the next time you run into them, they're not thinking as clearly on the game. They're being emotionally compromised, right?
Yeah, I think and that's what I was going to say. Back to gambling, is I think it makes the stakes much higher. So for the person who's trash talking, the worst thing you can do is trash talk and then just get beat. That's that's a bad feeling, right? To trash talk and then just get clapped up. But on the other side of that, it's very motivating. If someone just trash talks you, man, you really want to beat them. So I think it makes the stakes of the next game much higher. And I think it's a nice way to kind of have someone confront their ego, kind of using ego in a very loose sense, kind of like almost a Freudian sense.
Yeah.
Without getting into too much psychology here, but I think it really forces someone to confront their ego and to really maybe feel a bit insecure at times, and I think that can have a competitive advantage. Also, again, it can backfire, but I think it's a very interesting way to engage with the enemy. That can in some ways be beneficial to you as a person trash talking.
I like it. Interesting. Very, very high level there. Andallyn, what do you think on this? What do you think? So getting a whisper from a person that you just beat, calling you bad or whatever. How does that make you feel? Have you ever received something like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think let me put it this way. The reason why people like different types of systems, like something like a capitalist system or something where something that's merit based, is because I'm not making comparisons between, so I'm just throwing examples out there. Is that it helps, like it forces you to do something of value, and therefore forces you to compete with others, right? By competing
Yep.
against other people, it makes you better, right? Hence why, if in an economic standpoint of view, if you have multiple businesses competing over the same product, it'll drive price down, right? That's a pro. In the same way that in blacksmithing, if you take iron and you sharpen iron with iron, it sharpens the iron, right? That's a good thing. So in the same way, I think that trash talk and all this types of stuff, anything that's going to cause you to get fueled, to get agitated, get angry, maybe get more invested, the stakes are higher, as Big says. I think that those are great things. Those are awesome. I mean, yeah, there's situations where people take it too far, and start DDoSing each other, and it's like, okay, well, you're play at your own risk at that point. But that's what it's like to play in the RPG community, so I've been told. But but I think that the trash talk, in and of itself, intrinsically, without these ideas of like, well, it's not good because people take it too far, or it's not good because I'm not. That's why would someone say that to me, or something like that. I just, if you're playing this game for a substantial amount of hours every single week, it's part of your life. Like, get into it, get over yourself. It's not a big deal. Like throw a little in there. Most of the time, if anyone trash talks me, I throw it right back at them, and I respect them a little bit more for that. In the same way that if someone at work is just kind of throwing it around, and they throw it back at me, hey, I respect them a little bit more. So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. But I'm kind of curious, because I have a feeling that you probably don't agree a little, Gerissar.
Well, it's hard. Like, so personally, I understand both kind of conceptually, and also I understand the thought process behind it. So again, there's the emotional side. Obviously, if you're trash talking, you're passionate about what you're doing, what you're playing. The stakes are that high, right? Which adds, again, it's that higher emotional value that you have, which is just really strong and great. But again, like I feel like there's almost there's a point where it's not okay though, right? It depends on how you're, or what words are being used, right? And I think that's really there's that boundary line that gets crossed all too often, where people are telling people to go kill themselves, or threatening their lives and whatnot, or not. I don't know how well this is really effective, but there has been rumors that people said that they were banned off of the game and lost the ability to play the game because of passion in that. Not now. I guess the only thing I wish there is there has to be an understanding that if you're going to be playing in something of a high competitive nature, that there's going to be some trash talk. I mean, it happens all the time in sports, both esports and traditional sports. We see it all the time, right?
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Wasn't Michael Jordan a notorious trash talker?
Huge.
And I think he was even mean to his own team, right? Like that's one thing that the documentary last summer talked about. And
I
really
missed
quick,
that.
with what Gerissar is saying, there is a spectrum of trash talk, and I think my MO is it's okay to be a bit mean sometimes, but it's never okay to be a bully. So I
Right.
think there's a line, as you said, that is crossed, and that's where things get bad. But I think if you approach that line, if you stay within that line, I think it can be competitively advantageous and honestly pretty fun. Like trash
Yeah.
talking is quite frankly just really fun. So that's you know
Indeed.
that's that's kind of the but where we draw that line is kind of the big question is
Yeah.
what is too much.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's that hard to draw, frankly. And it comes down to just defining the terms well. Telling someone to go kill themselves is not trash talking. That's like verbal harassment type of stuff. Like verbally harassing somebody is not the same thing as trash talking. Like those are not the same thing. To conflate the two is only just confusing yourself. And so, honestly, if we want to be able to have a good conversation about this, I think we need to define our term better in the sense that trash talk is giving the other party a piece of how you feel, right? But it's also done within a certain level of sportsmanship, whether that's presence of sportsmanship or lack of sportsmanship. I still think that you can lack some sportsmanship and still trash talk. That would still be considered trash talk. But you can also still have a sportsmanship type of forward type of trash talk, meaning like, just like, hey man, like try to just save your bubble for the next game, and it's kind of funny, and he's kind of lapping off like that was a smart move. But I think that there's a little bit of class in that. It's you're not calling the person terrible. You're just kind of like, trying to get under their skin a little bit. I think there's a little bit of sportsmanship in that. And it can come in less savory forms. Going down from that, and I think that's still within the realm of trash talk. But once it becomes out of spite, and it's no longer something that you're looking to kind of that you're just kind of trying to kind of rumble in the ring, and now you're getting cryptic and working out of spite. That's a whole nother realm of no longer trash talk, right? We're operating somewhere outside of the realm.
Yeah. So here's a question: Where do you guys think teabagging belongs on that spectrum?
I think, like I said, sorry, go ahead, Big.
Like that is like the oldest form of like that's
Yeah.
most pure. I mean, that's a like right. You don't even have to say anything. You just squat down. That's
control
pure trash
key
talk.
though.
Yeah. So I mean, that's been in multiple games, for
Oh, yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And
A little less classy, but it's got that. Like I said, it goes down the level in unsavory.
Well, it's kind of like it's kind of like end zone celebrations, right? That's basically teabagging in football. Is you spike the Gronk spike or whatever. I mean, he's essentially teabagging the other team. He's like, hey, look, I just own you guys. Like, what's up? And so
True.
And it's cool because it's so identifiable, and it's like you know what it means. It's like, yeah, get owned, right? Like it's communication without needing to say anything. It's just very fun.
Sorry, just reading chat while you're talking. It kind of distracted me there for a second. We got a lively chat room tonight. So I do like Mortai's spot, which is if somebody starts trash talking, then using the spy out on, he puts them on the kill on sight list, which gives you a little alert whenever they show around when you're roll PvPing.
That's an awesome
And
add-on.
oh god, is it ever? It's spectacular in many ways. But then also, and this is another one. That's the flag of ownership. Right?
Yeah.
What like if anything, outside of teabagging, the designers of the game have actually put something in the game to just even further degrade somebody that just got owned.
Yeah, they'll take it out of the
Right.
game, so use it while you can.
Yeah.
They'll take it out of the game, and it'll be like 2 expansions from now.
Don't. I
Maybe less.
actually, as much as I hate getting the flag of ownership put on me when I die, I enjoy using it when I win, when I kill somebody.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
I think
That's
I think the
rewarding.
worst, the most embarrassing toy is the one that chops you up. When people do that, that feels bad. You know, they put on that chef's hat and they got that butcher knife out and they just like slashing you when you're on the ground dead in arena. That feels way worse than the flag of ownership to me because then you just become a pile of meat.
Yeah,
You know,
see,
it's like,
what gets me is the teabag cannibalize. You know what I mean? When
yeah.
I feel like Zarya will hit the teabag cannibalize every once in a while, and it cuts
Well,
deep.
here's an interesting question because this frequently comes up in the Hearthstone community. Is in the Hearthstone there's an emote that says "well played." You know, you can right click and emote "well played," and
Yep.
obviously it's meant to be
It's
like,
BM.
"Oh, good move," right? Yeah. So there's this whole conversation of whether or not "well played" is trash talk and whether or not should be removed from the game. And you know, the WoW equivalent, or across all games, the equivalent of that is saying like GG to someone after a game. So I think that's an interesting question because some people say GG without trying to be malicious, but it comes off as trash talk. I wonder if what you guys think about those sort of emotes that are on their surface meant to be harmless.
Well, I think it's like anything. Some things are meant to be harmless, or they're supposed to be supportive, but all you have to do is just use in the tone, or use it at the right time. And even then, like maybe you're trying to be supportive. Maybe you're trying to be like, yeah, that was a good game, but the person has a different mindset and they're interpreting it in a different way too. Like you have no control how the other person's interpreting what you're saying. And
Right.
that's actually one of the hardest things about a textile game, a game of texting there, where if you say GGs and the person understands what you said, and they think you're being sarcastic or sardonic, and downplaying what they thought was an achievement of theirs, you have no control over
Well,
that.
I would push back. I think you have lots of control over how you're interpreted. I think you don't have full control over how you're interpreted, right? Because
Sorry, pardon me, you cut out a bit there.
sorry, I think I'm going to push back on that because I would say you have lots of control on how you are interpreted, but you don't have full control. So
Okay, yeah.
like and this is you know, this herein lies the problem with why you can't remove these types of things from the game. Or like, for instance, the Hearthstone example, let's take that out of the game. Or let's take that example. You remove well played from the game. Well, you know, from these streams or from different types of body language in real life situations, or in like maybe texting situations, you've got things like dot 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 dot, like, or like multiple exclamation points, like these things that become attributed to like they tie to certain emotions in the same way that we do this with our language too. Like certain words adopt new meanings, and it's the whole reason why like sometimes tweets don't age so well, you know.
Yeah.
And so all these types of things can take on, everything's capable of taking on a new meaning. So by it's honestly a fool's errand to try to pull them away, because something else is just going to take on that meaning. But at the same time, the actual desire or the willingness or the intention of trying to remove those emotions from your game is in a even bigger just terrible decision, because you're not going to be able to get anywhere with that. You're not going to be able to achieve what you're looking to achieve. A game where like, honestly, if I played Arena and literally everybody was just like, "Hey, great game, that was fun, let's go," you know, it would suck.
Yeah. Shoot. Now, so I guess just to pivot back a bit then, instead of these things that should be somewhat nice, but then being used in a derogatory manner or whatever, it being used with other expletives and whatnot. I think again, like you said, like no matter what, that's even if you take one out, something else is going to go in and replace it. I guess it's just a matter of, is there a certain amount of it is just it's cultural, like it that this will, do you think this will change over time where it will, it's almost like a level of brinkmanship where in one generation it's at this one level, and then the next generation is that much higher, it's that much more toxic, it's that much more like, do you think that's going to happen? Or I guess in what's happening with today's culture, where we're seeing a lot of stuff softening and a lot of the political correctness is really starting to push into the games. Do you think trash talk is going to soften?
You know what? Because I hear this all the time. I hear people say, "Oh, you wouldn't have survived an Xbox Live lobby back in my day." Like I hear that, and I think that's kind of a myth. Like I mean, I think people have been, trash talk has existed probably as long as competition has existed, and I don't really think that it's gotten any better or any worse. It's just, the dynamics of trash talk, the types of way we trash talk have changed. There's probably some reasons why it's good that we've moved on in some ways from the Xbox Live's, lobby trash talk. I'm sure there's things that were just terrible things to say then and equally terrible to say now. But it's funny. I wonder how a trash talk was like, back in like the 1400s, right? When people were like jousting or something. Like, what did they say? Like, nice horse, bro. Like, your horse looks weak. Like what was the trash? I'm sure it was, your wife is a harlot.
I thought in your general direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your father smelled of elderberries. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god! And here comes the Monty Python quotes. I love it. And that's a darn good question, because I'm sure stuff like that was being said a few times throughout the ages. Anything that was said to cause emotional spite or bad emotional thinking. I think the one thing I can't stand nowadays is, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't have Xbox Live chat when I was 14 years old, because I can only imagine what I would have sounded like. But I can't stand being in a chat room and listening to some 11-year-old try to trash talk me. Like that alone would drive me to just quit the game right then and there. I'll be honest. Like, hearing a little child in a voice chat do that would probably be the end of me playing a game. And for all I know, like for some of the whispers I've received, those might be 20 somethings, they might be 30 somethings, they might be a teenager for all I know. And we don't know. That's even the stranger part of it.
Yeah. I think
go ahead.
I think a really unfortunate consequence of maybe the mainstreaming of it's. I'm not sure what exactly to attribute it to. I mean, we could probably have another conversation that delves into a full root cause analysis about about this problem. But I think now it's very prevalent that a lot of people will watch, whatever it is, they watch other people, or they go into playing a game. And I can't tell you how many Overwatch games I've been in, or arena matches that I'll do, and I'll be like, hey, do you have your ice block key set to a keybind that's handy or something like that? Just because I've seen you've died a few times without the block, and it's like, oh, what the hell, bro? F you, bro. You're not as good as you think you are. Like, you can't even do, and then leave the group. Yeah. It's like, Okay, or like, I'll be like, hey, they're running a Farah, they're running Mercy, and they're and they're running Echo as well. Why are we playing Junkrat? Like, I'm like, well, bro, I'll play who I want to play, bro. Okay, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, really? So, I think that's an unfortunate side effect. I don't know. Maybe that's a discussion. Is it a side effect of this? Is trash talk? Has that gotten us, or has that played a role in getting us to this point? Because I remember back when I was a lot younger, and like the average person was way more receptive to like, oh, really? Is that what you think? Oh, okay. I'm gonna listen to what you're saying, and then I'm gonna make a determination of whether or not you're right or not. And if you're right, I'm gonna do what you're saying because that's right.
I think maybe part of that, I don't know if this is fully explains it, but I'm the youngest person here, but back in my day, back in our days, right? Our experience playing games with other people required them to be right next to us. So we kind of developed maybe this social sensitivity towards criticism or even towards trash talk. And I this happens, where trash talking is very notorious is in the fighting game community, because in fighting games traditionally are played on LANs,
Yes.
and require you to go to events where there's other people. So it becomes part of the culture almost by necessity. I think nowadays, most kids when they're playing Fortnite or whatever, they're playing alone in their room, on their headsets, so they don't really get exposed to the social aspect of games as much. And
Yeah.
the sort of, I don't know about you guys, but well, I was the big brother, so I was always way better than my younger brothers at games.
Of
But
course.
I'd if I was playing with them, I'd probably tell them, hey, bro, you can do this, this is way better.
Get good,
And then
kid.
might
Yeah.
yeah, get good here. So they might be a bit more receptive to that because it's in the, a personal environment. But I think nowadays, I mean, because everyone's so separated from each other spatially in games, that we don't, this newer generation players doesn't necessarily have the same social intelligence
Yeah.
that we might have grown up with.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe a really good point because I mean I remember I was a young kid playing Dark Age of Camelot, and I had friends that I would talk to. They were like in my guild members, and I was 13 or whatever years old, but they were like, oh yeah, that's he's 13, he's a young boy, he's a young kid, like but we don't. I don't know. Maybe they were just shielding my innocence. I don't know, but I mean, it wasn't. It was such a different experience. And I mean, I'm not saying this is a one-off instance. I was part of maybe 6 or 7 different guilds, large guilds with lots of different people, lots of different faces and personalities and everything like that. It exposed me to a lot socially at that point. So I'm just saying now I feel like trying to go through the same kind of experience in any MMO, let alone any game, is polar opposite.
Interesting. There was an interesting comment. I think it was a Volai that I saw on Twitter where I'm going to botch it. I'm not going to quote it. I'm going to paraphrase it basically, but it was basically like we should be mindful of transposing our ideas of social acceptance and social maturity on people who have spent a large portion of their teenage years and young adult lives locked in a room becoming experts at a video game with almost no social interaction.
Yeah.
Basically,
So we should do what?
well, it's not that we should do it, but just basically like don't assume that a person who has spent hundreds of thousands of hours in front of a screen playing a video game has the emotional maturity and the social intelligence
Yeah.
For appropriate social interactions.
Yeah, I was actually having this similar conversation with my girlfriend yesterday, saying I almost feel bad for like teenagers today and kids today. And I think maybe generations before me probably said the same thing about my generation too. But I think undoubtedly we can agree that this new internet focused era, like we are undoubtedly controlled by the internet, and that is so central to our lives. Whereas, me growing up, it wasn't central to my life growing up until up until I was like in college when I was 18. That's kind of when the internet became very mainstream and, popular, that was the place to be. But I'm very grateful that I didn't grow up during this right now. I mean, it just seems dystopian.
Yeah. So I feel like that's an interesting point, but that would. So if that's true, what that means is that another statement is true, and that statement is we then as a gaming community have failed the youth of today that are trapped into their rooms playing games nonstop as kids. We've failed them on essentially giving them social examples or essentially teaching them how to have social maturity. Because it doesn't make sense to accept one clause without also accepting the other.
Yep.
So,
Well, so no, but this is a hard thing, I guess. Now let's talk about social examples. I mean, you can have the nicest streamer who's streaming a game, and they'll get views, right? I think the one exception is probably Venruki. Very, 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 very nice fellow. Same as I guess as a number of the fellows who and some of the ladies that stream are very nice people. But as far as the people that get really passionate, like the really large followings, and really, some people actually try to emulate, which is the scariest part, are the people that get like venomous. Somebody actually mentioned it. Somebody mentioned it in chat there, but there's some people out there that have some of the, to me, they're grotesque videos, but I know they get. It's my understanding they get a lot of views, they get a lot of followers, and they have a lot of people that are now trying to emulate the same kind of venomous attitude, thinking that it's cool or it's what they should be doing.
Yeah,
Such
I was thinking about
as-
this. A good example of this is like those prank videos that were really popular on YouTube a few years ago. It's like slapping girls on the butt in public prank.
Yeah.
It's like that's obviously terrible. But I was like, you have to
Yeah.
think, who's watching these videos? Well, it's kids. It's 100% kid. If you
Yeah.
right, that this is the. If you don't know why something is popular on the internet, it's because of kids. Like 90% of the time, it's because kids are pumping up this content. And I'm not gonna. Maybe I should drop names, but I guess I won't drop any names. Like some of the most popular Twitch streamers, I think they're funny. I think they're kind of entertaining, but it's like it's not someone I would watch every day. Kind of exhausting to watch some of these like really, really, really popular Twitch streamers. Like who the hell is watching these people every day? Oh, it's kids. Like 100%. And
Yep.
so that and I'm trying to think, did we have anything similar to that when we were I guess we had like South Park, but
Yep.
I think the availability of toxic content that's out there, it's just way easier to get access to anything
Oh
toxic
yeah.
these days. Like South Park, right? You had to turn on your TV, make sure your mom's not watching, and be like, oh shit, like gotta
See, but yeah, South Park had a certain, still does, has a certain thing of like, it's so extreme. Like so like if I'm a malleable young kid and I watch South Park, even when I watch South Park, right? I don't say, man, I want to be like Cartman when I grow up. You don't, right?
Yeah.
You don't even say like, man, I want to be like Clyde. You don't aspire to be anyone. Like, but the thing is, people will instead watch. You can watch someone like. I mean,
Logan Paul.
okay,
Like-
yeah, or I don't know, maybe. There's some kid who watches Crusader, right, and says like, wow, he he has got his hand on life, right? So like, I feel like there's a certain level of, and I don't know what's it stemming from, but there's a certain level of, it's so extreme. I just laugh at it, and it's not. I don't try to emulate it. It's something that it's like, this is consumable content. It's funny. It's not something I would do. Whereas, you get what I'm saying here?
I think it's because the streamers have a human face. So Cartman's a cartoon character, you know?
Right.
There's kind of this veil that's in between you and the character. But because of Twitch, you know, you're watching human beings, and what young kids probably don't realize is Twitch streamers, they're not exactly role playing, but they are kind of playing a character. Like,
A lot
I
of
don't
time
think
they
there's-
are.
You're right. I don't think a
Yes.
single Twitch streamer is really playing themselves. Like, there's a few maybe. Like, I think Kriparian is probably very similar in person to his Twitch personality. He's just a very chill guy. But like, you know, there's some Twitch streamers who are so over the top. It's like there's no way they act like that in real life. But I think like kids, when they see, you know, their popular streamer, you know, rage at a game, they're like, oh, this is real. This is normal. Like, oh, that's, you know, when I'm in my 20s, I'm gonna be like that. It's like, no, you know, but you know, when we were growing up, we didn't say, oh, I'm gonna be like Cartman when I'm older. It's like, no, I don't want to be a cartoon character.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I don't. Now the other thing that I kind of want to dispel right here too is this idea that like, I think it's a little lazy to say that like something that's just overly negative or hateful or venomous is going to get views because it is those things. That's also true on the other side. Things that are so like fake positivity, over the top positivity, like, okay, like this is just cheesy almost. Those get views too because they are positive or because they are, you know, like, you know, we're anti-toxic here, you know, and it's and all this stuff. Like, I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying that like it doesn't. Both sides are affected. Like the same is true for each. So, what are you gonna say?
Oh, like I had a massive Twitter argument last
you?
week. Yeah, I
remember
constantly, I have my eyes. I sleep with one eye open when it comes to these really overly positive people in the WoW community. I'm my eye on them, you know? It's like I don't think they're being honest. You know, and that's what bothers me. That's what bothers me about people who are
You can't
positive.
play WoW and be that positive. Screw you.
No,
It's like the woodland critters from South Park. It's like something's off. Yeah.
So yeah, I think like that bothers me. It's just like maybe it's like, yeah, I don't think they're being honest with how they're acting. I think being a like, oh guys, let's be positive, let's build each other up. It's like, what? Life is miserable, bro. Like, no, let's take life by the whole. It's like beat up life, you know. Like, sometimes it's good to just have a target to be angry at, and pretending to be positive all the time. I think you're just lying. I think you're setting yourself up to be miserable that way.
You lack authenticity.
Yeah. It's like when I see people who are way too positive, I'm like, it's kind of weird, you know. Why, you know, have some grit. You know, I wouldn't say that to my grandma's a really nice woman. I wouldn't say to my grandma, like, have some grit, grandma. But, you know, that's different. But when people are, like, you know, constantly espousing this positive attitude, I'm like, wait just a second. Something's off here. Don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
You almost
and this is like one of the things that I've tried to, like, kind of push on. And Mahortai makes a good point here. Over positive is also toxic. And that's true. And so, like, in the same way, like in LFG, if you are trying to, if you're part of a group and like, and somebody's just being a jerk and being like just really untasteful, immature, whatever it is, like we would all agree that's toxic behavior, right? But I would say at the same time too, like, expecting that you deserve a spot in a group that you aren't playing at a level to play with the group is also toxic. Very much so. So, and this is something that I've gotten people to be like, well wait, no, but, you know, and it's like, yeah, it's true. It's true, because the thing is if you're being if you're like being unsavory towards someone, and you're depriving somebody of being able to have a good time playing the game, that's generally meets the definition of being toxic within the context of playing a game, right? So it's one of those things that works both ways.
Well, there's obviously multiple ways of being toxic.
For sure.
I guess would demanding an achievement be considered trash talking? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think there's a difference. There's a difference right there, because let's not jump too many steps. Just trying to get into a group, like, so for instance, let's say we run a rated battleground, and the whole team's playing at 2200 MMR, even though their CRs are much below. But they've got a character who's, you know, they're playing Mistweaver Monk, when Mistweaver is just completely terrible for RPGs. They get swapped to, and I'm not saying right now. I'm just saying at a certain point in time. I'm creating your scenario here, and but that's what they play, and they're not really able to get out kind of healing, and they just die immediately every team fight. They're always the first one to go down. They're not playing at the same level that your group is playing at. If, like, it is not toxic to kick that person and say, hey, sorry, thanks for playing with us, but we're gonna have to find someone else. That's not toxic.
No.
To insist and say, no, I get to stay here. You're a dick if you kick me. That is toxic.
Oh yeah, okay. That's an entitlement. It's like you feel like you're entitled to be there just because you're a healer, or because you think you belong, and that's just a person's ego, really. That's their own personal issue. I was thinking more along the lines of, I thought you were talking about the demanding of a achievement before a person gets invited into the group. It's like, oh, this is sorry, you have to link 2.1K before we'll invite you. It's like, well, I'm 2K. Well, no, that's not close enough. Sorry, right? So I don't know, stuff like that. Anyway, what was I going to say? There's another. So going back to just quickly, I want to point out something. Going back to the whole conversation about behaviors, especially on-screen personalities and whatnot. I remember clearly a line from it was the Howard Stern movie, and they came back. They were looking to trying to kick Howard Stern off of the radio. What the big name his radio is at. He has a talk show, and they'd done a poll system, and they said they found out basically, like, extrapolated how many people are listening to him and whatnot, and the answer of, like, why people listen to him was so it was like almost like a 50-50 split. I want to say it was like 55-45. Is that of these millions of people that are listening to him, almost half of them, if not more, actually hated him.
Yeah.
Didn't like him as a person.
It's like
but they were but they kept listening to him just to find out what he was going to say next.
Yeah.
What was the next crazy, insane thing he was going to say next? Right. And if that's happening back in the 80s and the 90s, imagine, like, of course that's carried on, like that's just kind of speaks to the human nature and the human culture, right? I was talking to my wife the other day, and we're talking about this, about how nobody, when they're driving down the road, slows down to look at the flowers at the side of the road, or that lovely building or whatever. But everybody slows down to see the person that got pulled over by the cops or the car accident.
Yeah. I think we talked about clickbait a few episodes ago. I think we are drawn in by very specific activating emotions. There's certain things whether we realize them or not, that we just respond really well to, on a fundamental, almost human level. And so I think, the flowers on the side of the road, it's like, whatever, I've seen flowers before.
Yep.
But oh man, someone just got hit by a car. That's crazy. I have to look at this now. Like, it's that's clickbait, right? In real life.
Yeah. It
So,
is.
but yeah, I think with personalities too. I mean, that kind of might help explain why certain personality types are successful on platforms like Twitch, because it's clickbait. It's a activating emotion in some. Right, you just mentioned like Asmongold. I'm sure a lot of people watch Asmongold. They can't wait to turn on your stream to be like, I hate this guy. Like, same with Howard Stern. What's he gonna say next?
Yep.
And it's just an unfortunate. It's an unfortunate thing for the streamer, I guess. But I guess they're getting more views, so for them, it's a win-win.
It's actually really good for analytics.
Yeah.
Maybe you could try that with your social media experiment.
There you go.
Just be as vulgar as possible.
Let's build your hate audience.
Hey, like what's it called? Wendy's. Like, the Wendy's Twitter account is
it's
always
the best.
like making fun of like McDonald's. Like, they are unhinged. Like, whoever has that person has the best job in the world, because they've branded their account as just being the troll of the burger empire.
Yeah, and people will say like, Wendy's roast me, It's like it's like that restaurant they have, the Dick's Last Resort, where literally the entire wait staff is just rude as can be to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people go there. Like, it's like that's right. There's something intrinsically human.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something so intrinsically human about like, and see, and that ties back into trash talk, and I think that's why it gets us going, because it's like for someone to say oh hey, nice bubble, or yeah, wait, nice turtle, great, awesome job, you're doing great, or something like that, like, hey, where'd you learn how to play Hunter so good,
Yeah.
it's like it's nice. But the way that they say it now, it's like all of a sudden it's like, you know what? You know exactly what they're saying. So it's perfect.
You're so good at that class. You should show me. You need to teach me how to play that class, but it's with that sardonic twinge to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I guess so coming back to the actual, like, the difference between psychological head games and toxic trash talk, then I guess it just comes down to man, my words are hard all of a sudden. How imaginative you can be with the wording to basically try to get into a person's head, so the next time you face them, they're emotionally compromised, so that they're making bad decisions. But I think we can all agree that just trying to call somebody complete shit at a game, or telling them to go kill themselves, or any of that other venomous, more just horrible words, is not the way to go about it, is it? Do we all agree on that, or am I putting words in people's mouths?
So I heard a really interesting story about Michael Jordan. All right.
Yep.
So when Michael Jordan was playing, there was this guy who was a really, really, really good basketball player. And he was, I can't remember this exactly, so I'm going to tell it. If someone, I'm sure someone knows it, watches The Last Dance or whatever. I don't even know if it's on The Last Dance, but regardless, he's playing basketball and he's playing up against Michael Jordan in this NBA game, right? He's made it to the NBA, and he kind of gets a little something. He does a good move and like gets up into Michael Jordan or something, and then like they're standing at the free throw line, and Michael Jordan just looks over at him and says, "You're a little bitch." And apparently he said it with like so much oomph, that he just like he was just like, I can't even play basketball anymore. I'm just done. He stopped playing in the NBA and went and followed a new career. So I'm like, I think he tells this story too, and it's like it's it's something that's like I don't know. There's a huge like philosophical and like mental type of maybe response or analysis of this, but it's just I don't always think that like people say, oh, those are mean words and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, like they're words, like just go. I mean, it's again, it's if someone's verbally harassing you, that's different, you know, and that's the great thing about the internet is you can walk away from that. You don't have to engage in this. Like I see people on Twitter all the time constantly talking about how like I'm so attacked on this and I'm, you know, and they're getting so passionate and all this stuff, and I'm getting, you're verbally harassing me and stuff. It's like, just walk away, you know? That's the beauty of the internet. But you can get up and go do something else. So honestly, if you're able to play a game and interact with people and play in a competitive scenario like that, throw the trash talk, get into it. Like that's part of competition. Again, just like what Bigmoran said, it's been around as long as competition's been around. So I think it's healthy for the scene.
I think listening to that, I think that the one difference there is if it's on the basketball court while being played while playing basketball, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one of the hard things about World of Warcraft is, you know, some people have World PvP flagged or their war modes on, and sometimes they might be just out. Maybe they don't have it on. Maybe they're just out doing something, but somebody comes up and just starts whispering them and trash talking them. That's a little bit different, right? That'd be like no different than somebody walking up to Michael Jordan on the street and start calling him a little bitch on the street. Like that's not okay too, right? Like there's a time and a place.
I've never had anyone trash talk me just like open world, just like walk up to me and be like, yo.
I mean, that'd be kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't either, but I'm not popular enough, I guess. Maybe that's why. I don't know. It's
apparently I'm not either, so
one day when we get the podcast big enough, you'll get a whisper or two just on the lives. It's just when you're sitting around on live servers.
Yeah.
So
I'm not holding my breath.
Me neither. I guess I just thinking about that. If I was looking up to somebody, if I was looking up to Michael Jordan, and he turned around and called me a little bitch, and you know, telling me I was bad at the game, that does have a certain weight to it too, right? Like if there's somebody that you're looking up to and they are doing that to you, I guess. But again, that I think that's just again having certain expectations in your head, and then it's how you're internally processing that stuff, which is something we were talking about earlier. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's anywhere else to go with that. Just thinking about that, what you're saying. So
Yeah.
all right.
I kind of think it's funny when people trash talk. Like when people whisper me after an arena, I just think it's funny because I know that they're just over there, just like typing out a message, backspace, you know what I mean? Like,
you almost hear them like just one fingering, like Woody Woodpeckering their keyboard with as hard as they can, being super pissed off. Is that?
Yeah, or or like after an Overwatch game, I'll get a friend request and it's like from a teammate. It's like sometimes I just like, okay, let me see what you got, you know.
Give me your best.
Yeah, let's hear it. Entertain me. So, but I don't know. Some people are a little more sensitive, and that's kind of intimidating. You know, and to that, I don't really know what the answer is to that. I'll be honest. I don't. I don't know if the answer is, well, maybe competition just ain't for you. Maybe that's the answer.
It's possible.
I don't know if it's maybe you need a grow pair. I don't know if that's the answer. I don't know.
I think part of the answer is sharing it with your friends. So and talking about it because maybe if you're taking it in a way that's hard and really it's just a trash talking, they maybe help you look at it in a different light or realize where that's coming from, and then you wouldn't be internalizing it in a negative way, or in a just, it's basically just not internalizing it, right?
Yeah.
I think that is equally important, is sharing it with your friends and not just internalizing something. I guess big.
Mhm.
Two questions. One, have you've received trash talk, right?
Oh, yeah,
Have
certainly.
you
Earlier
have you
today.
ever have you yeah, the other day. Have you ever given trash talk?
Oh, yes. Probably more than, most actually. And it's part of it is just I am a very competitive person, been that way, since I was young.
Mhm.
So I just view it as a form of competition, and also like I used to have very toxic arena partners, who would trash talk me, trash talk the other team. I had this one arena partner who, back when the armory had statistics, you could look up a character
Yeah.
and see its stats. He had this was during Cataclysm. It showed the times LOL'd emote. Uh, and he had emoted /LOL over 7,000 times. And I did the math. You could see how many arena games he's played. And on average, he was /LOLing 10 times a game. Like he would just do it at the other team. And so
It's
I kind of
baked into his
internalized that.
macro.
I was like, yeah, I kind of internalized that. I was like, okay, this fun. It's funny. It's just, LOL. It's in
Yep.
the game itself.
Mhm.
And so, I've always liked trash talk. As what I said before, is it's fun. It makes the stakes higher for the game itself. And again, though, there's a fine line between being mean and being a bully.
Mhm.
And you don't
Mhm.
want to be a bully, but
Yeah.
it's certainly okay to be mean sometimes, and especially if it's in this competitive spirit.
Yeah. It definitely is
Indeed.
an aspect of the game too, because when you're competing, especially at a higher level, your mental discipline is very much something that takes a toll in many different ways. And a lot of times people will like trash talk and give you a competitive edge, because if you can get in someone's mind to where they're tilted, they're not going to play as well. Most of the games that
Yeah.
I play in Overwatch, it's about just doing good enough for the first 5 minutes, because the team that tilts first loses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a competitive advantage. If like in a lot of times, I'm not even gonna lie. And a lot of times in Overwatch games, I'll say something like, "Oh, sorry, your Reinhardt's throwing," because I'll try and tilt the other team, because that'll give
Yeah.
me a competitive advantage.
So funny. Sid actually talked about this during one of the AWCs, and he was commenting how during a LAN competition,
Yeah,
the opposing team one game just like CC'd him constantly, like to the point he might as well have not even
yeah,
had his hands on the keyboard. He couldn't do it. He was so frustrated. He was so tilted by that he knows that caused him to lose the following game, because he was just so ultimately frustrated by that.
yeah,
And yeah, so and I agree. Like it's and he suspects that was a strategy used by they knew that was going to happen.
mm-hmm.
And I think
Oh,
this all kind of goes to the whole thing, is that it doing the psychological warfare, these mind games, it works. It works in standard sports. It works in esports. We've made that known a few times, and I think it should be there. But again, I think if anything, there should be, as community, we should also educate people on what's okay and what's not okay. Because obviously society's failing in some ways, where people think that it's okay to tell people to kill themselves, and think that there's no repercussion on doing that, which we know is incorrect, because we've lost people in our community, very very well known names in our community, because they were receiving messages like that. So I guess what's one thing you guys would change, though? We have to ask that question. Actually, I'm gonna Andallyn, I'm gonna ask you first. If there's something you could change about this, what's one thing you would change?
Man, that's tough. I'm gonna go with what I was talking about earlier. I would like to change to where we could. There's so many fun things I could do with this, but nonetheless, I digress. I'm gonna change. I would still like there to kind of reverse the clock a little bit to kind of going back to. I think that this whole front that gamers have now of just like any type of communication is automatically an invitation for me to be defensive and nasty towards someone because of whatever reason. I'd like to reverse the clock on that. I think that that's a little bit due to some of what we were talking about. So if I was going to change anything, I'd like to be able to reverse the clock in that regard.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's not sure how we'd be able to do that, but
Hey, you know the rules. You know the premise of this question.
yes. It doesn't matter how, it just what.
It doesn't have to be possible. It just has to be plausible.
All right. How about you, Big? Do you have one?
It's something that I think they're already kind of working towards. We've spoken a lot today about there being specific types of trash talk, which are just undoubtedly bad. And I think, right, that's one of the upcoming changes in how Blizzard is moderating their games to try to make certain types of behavior or certain types of speech just absolutely, like, no, that's not allowed. So I think if there's a good way to sort of distinguish between competitive trash talk and just vile, malicious, terrible trash talk, and it can be enforced regularly, I think that will help. There could be some unintended consequences to that sort of policing, but I think overall it would be a good thing. And the other thing too is I know what Blizzard will do is sometimes they'll mute accounts who are way too negative. But I mean, I think muting sometimes isn't enough. I think for some people, they're so toxic, like they really need a stronger slap on the wrist than just being muted. So I think there's some ways that moderation could be better within the game that
Okay.
is able to still preserve the competitive elements of trash talk.
That last part is the most important.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes it's not. So.
No.
And in turn,
Shoot.
I've seen lots of people who just become way more toxic because of like poor moderation decisions.
Yeah.
It just
So-
brings a certain toxicity.
I had one, but now I want to change it. So mine originally was, I'll say is I actually want them to add some more emotes that can be used in game for trash talk. So I understand they're getting rid of spit, but I feel like there's some that there needs to be some things that they need to be able to add into the game that allow for some, hey, it's fun trash talking without it being the bullying or the venomous stuff, and allow for people, and then at least it's in game, so it's not just a whisper, which is almost it's almost more distracting. Getting a whisper window while you're trying to play a game is extremely distracting, right? So I don't know. That is my thought, is have them add in a few more emotes to allow for fun, respectful trash talking without, again, it's kind of like the well played, right?
Yeah.
Well played emote. So, yeah. All right. I think we've done that. So let's roll into the WoW PvP news and see what's been going on around the community while we're playing the game.
All right.
Millhouse. We gotta fix our.
Who ordered up?
Okay. We gotta fix our sounders. They don't like to work so well.
It worked fine for me, man. I don't know. All right. Okay. News. What's been going on? I guess. Big. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna start off with something that just happened over the weekend. The AWC finals are over for both North America and EU, and on the European side, we had Horizon with their Jungle
Mm-hmm.
Cleave come out on top, narrowly beating. They believe they beat Method EU in the or Skill Capped in the. I don't even remember. Jeez,
It
I
was.
should.
Skill capped. Well, so no Method EU
Yeah.
in the finals. They did beat Skill
Yeah,
Cap
yeah.
though. Yes.
But I mean, Horizon, they had to beat Method EU in the final, right? Because yeah.
Yep.
They beat Method EU in the. I don't
It
even
was
remember.
bad.
Any case, yeah, the Jungle Cleave won. All right,
The reverse
as
sweep. Mm-hmm.
the reverse sweep,
Yes.
yes.
It was
And
glorious.
and on the North American side, we had Method NA beat Golden Guardians 4-1, I believe, was the outcome of that series. So
Yes.
concludes season 2. So congrats to all the winners, of course.
Indeed. Yeah, that was some amazing games. I honestly I thought Horizon was done when it was 3-0 for Method, and then yeah, they reverse swept 4-3. It was absolutely amazing.
Now, Gerissar, we were
Yeah.
discussing on a certain Discord call on Sunday when we went, oh, and Horizon
Yeah.
had won on
Yeah.
that game number 4, and I said, oh, here comes the reverse sweep.
Yes, you did. You
That's
called
right.
it.
I did call that. That's right.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I can't. So, just on that, as we've been doing recently, is trying to get on the winners of the teams onto the show. We are working on it. So hopefully we'll be able to get some of the players from Horizon as well as Method A and NA on the show to talk about their wins. Obviously, Horizon being a little difficult because they're in the EU, so the time zones are an issue. But keep an eye on the Twitter feed. We'll announce it when we know. All right, just gonna say that.
Soon to follow.
Soon to follow. On that as well, the other Blizzard sanctioned esports, the MDI Global Cups have finished. So we have all the top teams that have their spots going to the global finals. Again, with the one exception is the one spot that's being held for the last stand. So we have oh shoot, I can't even see all these names here. But there's Perplexed, team name, Complexity, Echo, couple others. I actually don't know these names off the top of my head. And Aster comes in from China. So those are the 7 of the 8 teams that are going to the last stand. So really interested to see what happens, especially with the China, because I don't remember it being televised. So I don't even know anything about this team. I don't even know how what to expect from that. So is there any team that you guys are looking forward to on the MDI?
Normally for me, it's always seeing someone other than Echo kind of play really well and kind of perfect some kind of unique strat, because it's always good to see them have some kind of competition. I feel like they compete at another level, and they're really good. They got some serious chops, so it's always good to see them have some really good competition.
Indeed. Yeah, I always like it when there's somebody comes in and challenges one of the top teams, because it just makes them play that much harder, that much stronger, that much better. So again, it's a competition that the iron on iron, right? So, okay. Oasis hosted their fun community 2v2 tournament last night. So quick congrats to Jendal and Big Wet Fart for winning that one, and doing an Resto Druid and BM Hunter 2's team. That was actually a really fun one to watch. If you guys ever want to go check it out, over on the Oasis Twitch channel, you'll find the VOD. It was a good go. And then, as always, there's hot fixes. Hot fixes all around. One, I feel bad for Vedruki. I think after 11 months of farming, he said he finally got the mind quickening gemmer there, and now they're just nerfing it to so the minimum GCD is going to be raised to 1 second. So it can't. So you can't get mind quickening to take your GCD below a second, which is I think that's pretty big. And we alluded to earlier, big. I'll give you the chance to say the next one.
Yeah, so conquest points earned has been buffed by 70%,
Correct.
which I think is a change in the right direction. I know there's some people. Obviously, this is a good change, but there's some people who are like, "Hey, let's go even further." But yeah, I think again, it's difficult to cap that conquest every week. Jeez, you know. So this is definitely a good change for anyone who's currently playing or trying to catch up.
Yeah, I
And
think
when we say
it's both.
difficult, when we say difficult, I never remember it being difficult. It just required time. So, are we conflating the two as being synonymous?
Yeah, I think something that takes time is inherently there's a difficulty with taking time.
Okay.
So
Well, if you have a limited amount of time, then
Yeah.
that I think with the how do I put this. So again, like I'm not playing anywhere near a level that I could say talking at a high level or whatnot, but my understanding from how people are playing it and talking about it, the ladder queues are not as fast as people are used to at the higher ends. So it takes a lot of time to get enough wins to cap out your conquest when you're sitting in queue for 7 to 10 minutes, right?
That's true, yeah.
So this just helps on that. If you're in the lower brackets and you're, I don't know, because of gear or because of whatever or skill, and you're just constantly ended up, you're losing more than you're winning, right? You're on that like 45 to 55 win-loss ratio where like you win one, you lose two, and you're just floating up and down in the worst spots. You're again not gaining a lot of conquest because you're probably losing more than you'd like to, and then, queues are a little bit faster, but and then you're also playing 13-minute games, right? So or not, depending on how it is. So I think all in all, I think this just helps in both of those scenarios to get people win or lose to get to their conquest cap weekly cap faster.
See, I'm going to say it. But honestly,
Yeah.
if you're losing more than you're winning, you've got bigger problems than capping your conquest.
True, but if all you're doing is going into cap conquest, then some people don't really care. It just means that they drop down to a bracket where they can start winning more, right? So
I think too the conquest you earn from 2v2 is like abysmal because I only play twos, and so every week it takes like I can have weeks where I think anything over 55% win percentage is good, like really good, and that takes a long time if you're just doing twos to cap your especially since twos games can go on for 8 minutes plus. So it's this for me is a welcome change.
Yeah,
someone
definitely.
who only plays 2v2.
Yeah. I think for me it was always normally pretty quick because I played Rogue Mage Paladin. So those were quick games, and when you won, you got 3v3 like a rated match mounts of conquest. So it definitely made it a lot different in that regard, especially if you're playing like 3 to 5 nights a week of like, I'd count my conquest early in the week. Now it's like, okay, I can't tell you how many games I've played where I just have my conquest points have just gone to waste because I've already capped.
Oh
So,
yeah, I'm sure that a lot
but
of
yeah,
people
I
you're
think
playing you're playing for the game, right? You're
yeah,
not playing for the
exactly.
points
It makes
at that
sense. It makes sense, especially in a dampening meta and in that fact. But I would just say I feel like if it makes me question. I think the game's functioning as it should. If you're having a hard time getting conquest because you're losing more than you're winning. Well, it sounds like your issue is not like the fact that we need to get you figure out how to get you some conquest points because you should be getting them. It's that gee, why are you losing more than you're winning? What's up with that? And if you fall down into a lower bracket, that's good. But if you're looking to do something else with it, why are you looking for conquest points in the first place?
Well, I didn't really want to say it this way, but if you're in, let's say, the 1500 bracket playing twos, and you just happen to be on that night where there's a bunch of glads that are doing viewer games or carries or whatever, like you're gonna end up eating 10 losses.
Oh, not that many. There's so many people in that MMR bracket. There's no way. I have a hard time believing that.
Well, if there's more than one person in there carrying or whatever, that's what I'm saying. But I don't know. It all depends on what you on luck, right? So
well, I mean, they jump MMR pretty quick. Every time I watch Peekaboo do it, his MMR just goes, and then it's got to come back down. So,
true.
So I mean, if you're playing at 1500 and you're staying at 1500, you're probably still at that MMR. So I mean,
yeah, you're probably where you should be, I guess. People were thinking this was going to be great for alts, and I was wondering if this might have been, rather than a response to people saying how it was taking too long to cap, if this is also kind of in relation to the comments that were made during season 1 and how long it was, and asking for a mid-season catch-up, and if this is actually just a mid-season catch-up, and then let's say when season 3 is announced that it's going to fall back down to where it was. Assuming that is the case, do you think if you picked up an alt right now, do you think 70% boost to conquest is worth it, or is there too much other stuff in the way for your alt? Big, you're the one that said you have a neglected warrior.
Yeah, it's rough, right? Because conquest is just one of the systems you need to grind, and so it's there's so many walls. You climb one, and suddenly there's another. So it's a complex problem, and I think any system design that reduces the size of any of those walls is good. Hopefully something, I know next patch, right, there's going to be you could send renown 40 to your alts. So I think overall the direction is positive. And can only get better from this point on. So
yeah,
one can hope. If anything, with this little boost, I guess with the boosting and that, people are just going to be able to help people get to conquest cap faster. So
see, here's the evil genius in me thinking about this. If I was the game designer and I had if I just wanted to have a time machine, if I had a time machine, I'm sorry, and I wanted to just stir things up, I would be like, hey, we're actually decreasing the amount of conquest earned by 70% and adding 80 more renown levels. I'd just be curious to see how people would respond to that,
Oh my gosh. They'd lose their minds.
Yeah. That'd be like, uh-oh. Things are really getting bad at Blizzard now.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think there's anything bad that can happen with these changes. So
no. It's good. I think it's good. I agree. I'm just wondering about I was thinking about the alt stuff.
Yeah.
But you have a good point there. There's all these other systems. I mean, the honor grind alone is anyway. Okay.
I've always subscribed to the idea that I think that if the game is in a healthy spot, when it takes a lot of time and you're willing, that's the key, and you're willing to put that time in to level your alt. Because I mean, honestly, an alt should be like leveling a second character. It should be like playing like just as much as you did on the first one to have that same in theory. I mean, there's some things that aren't going to be translate entirely, but like you should always still have some kind of edge on the character that you're playing and you're putting the most time into.
Okay. I have nothing else to add to that.
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's just my controversial opinion for the day, so that's all right.
Yeah, no worries. If anybody disagrees with Andallyn, technically PvP at gmail.com. All right. The last one is the Rex Troy. He did a quick video demonstrating the power of the Blessing of the Seasons in a one shot in PvP. I have to admit, I watched this. It looked really impressive at first, and then I realized just how like the first little bit was basically him just being super trolly, popping some CDs over to the side, and then like flying in and just like one-shotting people who were flagged for PvP outside of Orgrimmar and then like running away before anybody could stop him. And even when it came to the instance PvP, he even said like it took a lot of skirms for him to try to get the one shot to work. But when it worked, it was very impressive, which is basically popped wings. I think he gave himself a blessing of freedom or whatever, and then waited the 10 seconds for the blessing of seasons to pop up, and then like literally push two buttons and a person just would almost completely flop. But when people saw the wings, usually they use a CD or something like that to cool down and were able to survive. So it's I don't know. Have you guys seen? Did you guys see the video? What do you guys think? Do you
Sounds
think
like
this
every
is
other
even?
Rex Troy video I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. I always love Rex Troy videos, and he's like,
Oh, yes.
we're gonna summon some toads. You know, I'm like, oh, it's always the toads. You know, it's like if only I could summon those toads in arena. You know, but no, I'm a big advocate for experimenting with, against the grain covenants.
Yeah.
And for paladins have been Kyrian since the beginning of the expansion. And some paladins were playing Venthyr for Ashen Hollow, but for the most part, they've stuck with Kyrian. And I really think that people should experiment more with Night Fae, with the
really?
Blessing of the Seasons, and the legendary that goes with it. I believe that buff, Blessing of Seasons, is nerfed in PvP. I think there is a PvP specific multiplier for it, but like on paper, it's just insanely shot. Like it's a gimmicky thing. It's a one shot thing.
Oh yeah.
But man, like with how much damage some classes can do, like imagine putting Blessing of Seasons on like a Windwalker with Bone Dust Brew down. You know, Bone Dust Brew plus Windwalker damage, cooldowns and procs is already like absurd damage. So on top, add a Blessing of Seasons buff to that. That's insane. Like there's my theory is there's so much that could be done with the game. Like there's so much experimentation that has yet to be done in a competitive setting, because PvPers are boring. They like they like their hamburgers with ketchup and mustard and pickle. They like all the classic toppings, right? They like the consistent, predictable flavor profiles. But man, it's nice to have some spice, and the Blessing of Seasons, that's some spicy PvP right there. So
It's got the opportunity.
I'd like to see some more experimentation and different comps with Night Fae Paladin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would too. I think that's the whole thing with a lot of stuff. And actually, Orber in chat was saying the game gets so boring really quick and predictable. Wants to see more constantly buffing and nerfing things. There's something to be said. When people get bored, then they start experimenting, right?
Yeah.
They start doing things like this. So I think there's something to be said about letting people get a little bit bored. I think, and some of the 9.1 changes, the 9.15 changes, these, the ability to swap covenants, the ability to refund yourself some soul ash when you trash a legendary and all that stuff is going to definitely give an opportunity for people to get more into playing around that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
People weren't willing to do because the risk was just too much. It was too great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you're playing beta on live servers, hey, what are you gonna do?
Zing. Speaking of zings, do you have any shout outs there, Andallyn?
Yeah, shout out to everybody on third shift. Y'all know what's up.
Good one. All right, Big, do you have any shout outs?
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out my girlfriend who doesn't play World of Warcraft, knows nothing about PvP.
Or our
But
podcast.
yeah, she knows I'm doing this right now.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
she's a new PhD student, and I think that's pretty impressive. I'm like, dang, that's rank 1 in real life, and
That's
that's
right.
rank 1
Mm-hmm.
Academia.
academics. Yeah, so it's like, dang, that's a serious undertaking. So shout out to my girlfriend.
Good job.
She's probably grinding for that.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a whole level grind.
Yes.
Well, I guess I'm going to give a quick shout out to Dilbar, Zweetwow, and Orber for following the show today, or the Warcraft Radio channel. Oh, sorry, I missed another one. Turnstile. Thank you, all of you, for coming on to the Twitch channel and giving us a follow over there and being so active in the Twitch chat. It's been actually very entertaining reading a bunch of the messages as we've been talking. So thank you, all of you. All right. I guess that's about it. So, Andallyn, Big, could you guys list off where everybody can find us on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can contact us directly with a tweet to @technically_PvP, or also with an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can also join our discussions with us in the Warcraft Radio Discord, specifically under that Technically PvP channel.
And you can visit the Warcraft Radio website to find the podcast directory with us and many other great shows at warcraftradio.com. The new directory also has a review system, so head over there and tell everyone what you think of your favorite shows.
Indeed. And as always, links for all these are going to be in the show notes. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll chat with you next time. Good night, everybody.
Take
See ya.
care.